Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, May 18, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at this map showing the Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity based on data from 1944 to 2020. So we can see right here that the hurricanes are represented by the yellow colors, while the hurricanes and tropical storms are represented by the red colors. And considering that we're in the month of May, we can see that yes, there's some amount of uptick in the activity, especially as we wrap up the month of May and head into June. Then as you can see, it gets more active the more we head into the summer and autumn. And just for reference, we're looking at a map here showing all the tropical storm activity or formation points from May 10th to May 20. Considering that it is May 18, we only have 2 more days, but we do see that yes, we've had some amount of activity within the past 10 days over the years since records began. So some systems forming to the south of Jamaica, some across portions of the Greater Antilles and to the north of the Eastern Caribbean. But what about the other time frame, considering that we're gonna be heading into May 21 soon, even this week? So we can definitely see that yes, the Eastern Pacific is quite active, which explains why the US National Hurricane Center has highlighted that area for some amount of development within the next couple of days. But look at the southwestern Atlantic, we see that we definitely have some points of storm formation, one right there to the southeast of Jamaica, one to the north of Hispaniola, one to the east of Georgia, and some across the portions of the western Caribbean. So it's not foreign, it has happened before. These maps are showing what happened since records began many years ago, way back to the mid 1900s. So they're basically showing all of where we had the storm. So it's not impossible for us to get some kind of activity forming across our portion of the basin, but you have to keep updated to see exactly what unfolds. Taking a look here at the sea surface temperature anomalies, this map actually came out on May 17, that was yesterday, and we can definitely see the way above normal temperatures stretching all the way from the main development region from Africa all the way across the Caribbean. And the thing about this, it's usually when we have all of these warm waters in our latitude that we have the most in the way of bad weather, rainfall, storms, hurricanes. When we have the blues like what we're seeing right here across the northern portion of the basin, that's where we see the least amount of activity. So it's gonna be interesting to see what unfolds, especially considering that we're heading into a La Nina where the eastern to the central Pacific waters are starting to cool off, and we can see the blues that are starting to take over. We're still in an El Nino, which has to do with the very warm waters that we're still seeing here, but it is dwindling, it is decreasing as we're speaking to make way for more of these cooler than average temperatures. You know, the La Nina causes more in the way of, well, little to no activity in terms of storms and so on across the Eastern Pacific, which lessens the amount of wind shear coming off of these clouds, which enter into portion of the Caribbean and causing these storm systems to die off. So with the La Nina here, nothing of the sort will be happening, so it just makes way for the Atlantic to definitely take over. And not only that, but even at a great depth of the ocean, the waters are warm. So the map that we just showed actually was showing SSTs, that's the sea surface temperatures, that's on the top of the water. But this map right here is actually showing the tropical cyclone heat potential. That's how warm the water is the deeper we go. So look at right there, this is the key at the bottom showing the way above normal temperatures. Got all of these reds across portions of the central and western Caribbean. We're definitely way above normal considering that it is May 18. I guess you could say the fishes in and around Jamaica under the water are boiling in a sense with all of this warm water so early into the year. It's quite interesting. Either way, the storm systems are going to have a lot to work with when they're spinning anti-clockwise and they're churning up the sea surface temperatures. They actually suck up all of the warm water, but with the warm water deep into the ocean, even when it's churning up the water, it's still going to be having a lot of warm water to work with, and it's going to be sucking all of that up to strengthen the storm systems, making more in the way of rainfall, not to mention increasing in the category in terms of wind speeds. And I'd also like to show you guys something. We're looking at 2005. If you don't know, 2005 is one of the most active hurricane seasons yet, and this was May 17, 2005. Look at the sea surface temperatures stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean. Alright, what about 2020? Remember how tremendous that year was in terms of the storms. Look at all of this, the reds, the oranges, the way above normal sea surface temperatures. That's for the same time period. Well, this is 2010, not 2020. So yes, May 2010. That season was bad as well. But what about this year? This is just ridiculous. So 2005, 2010, 2024. Look at the way above normal temperatures. This hurricane season is going to make 2005 and 2010 look like child's play. Look at all of that. That's way above normal sea surface temperatures that these systems are going to be working with. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of tremendous flooding taking place this year, a lot of loss of life across portions of the Caribbean. We just have to take necessary precautions so that we're not that drastically affected by what is to come. Alright, so let us take a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook. We can see that for the next 7 days, they don't have anything highlighted that is expected. What about the Eastern Pacific? We're seeing that the systems that they were monitoring have actually died down, so they don't expect anything to be happening. I guess it was a false alarm. We know these things can happen. They can have a code yellow, something that looks like it's going to be forming, and then later on the weather changes and it becomes a bit unfavorable. So remember, it was a code yellow, then it became a code orange, then we had 2 systems showing. Now it's back down to 0% chance of formation within the next 2 days, 0% chance of formation within the next 7 days. Alright, so there's still a lot of talk about what's expected across the Caribbean next week, considering that we're going to be having an increase in moisture near Jamaica. We're going to be looking at this map from the Euro, and we're going to be looking across the Caribbean right here. And please pay attention to the forecast hour and the date right here at the top. So we're going to be going out in time. We're just going to be going out to 7 days. That's the next 168 hours right here to see exactly what unfolds. So we're going out in time, and we're starting to see some greens that represent rainfall by Tuesday into Wednesday. Look at all of these greens and yellows that represent moderate to even heavy rainfall across portions of Jamaica. And going out in time to the next 168 hours, we're seeing that some of this rainfall even affecting sections of Cuba, Haiti, the Dominican Republic. And then by the end of the 168 hours, most of the activity has pushed up towards the northeast. That's according to the Euro model though. What does the GFS model show for the same time period? So we're looking out in time. We start to see the greens that represent rainfall coming in by 12:00 on Wednesday. That's what, 7 a.m. on Wednesday. Look at all of these yellows and even reds. Even an L right there that represents an area of low pressure. And we can see what it does. It strings all the way out towards the northeast, so there could be some amount of wind shear trying to rip it all apart, which explains why it's not going to be developing at all. There's just going to be a lot of moisture, so maybe some amount of troughing taking place, pushing all of the activity across the Dominican Republic and then pushing up towards the northeast. So in yesterday's video, We actually saw that the euro was a bit robust in terms of the rainfall totals across Jamaica. Look at the flip now. Yesterday, we had more of these burgundy and yellow colors across portions of Jamaica. Now it has pushed off more towards the east, so I guess it is caving a bit to what the GFS has been showing. The GFS still strong with most of the moisture across portions of the Dominican Republic, even portions of Puerto Rico. Keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 7 a.m. on Saturday, or at least midday on Saturday. But we still see that yes, Jamaica could get in on some of the blues that represent rainfall. That's according to the Euro model that represents up to at least 2 inches of rainfall. GFS also showing the burgundian purple colors that represents what, up to 3, maybe even up to at least 8 inches of rainfall, maybe even more than that. Look at these yellows that represent even up to what, 14 inches of rainfall. We'll see exactly what unfolds with that. Euro showing the rainfall totals a bit robust, but more so to the east of Jamaica, to the south of Haiti right here. So we just have to, stay updated. These maps are going to be changing. As stated in yesterday's video, most of the rainfall was across Jamaica on the Euro. Now it has pushed out towards the east of the updated model forecast. GFS still strong with the same forecast from yesterday. We'll see exactly what unfolds. We know the weather is forever changing, especially with climate change, and I'll definitely be here to keep you all posted. Alright, so let's just take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that the entire Atlantic basin is still being dominated by a ridge of high pressure that's sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. Those low-level clouds, that Saharan dust, it's all expected. But what about the visible satellite images confirming this? So we still see that portion of the southeastern United States is being affected by a frontal system, bringing clouds, showers, and thunderstorms to portions of those areas, including Florida. We can see the low-level patches of clouds being pushed from east to west across the main development region into the Caribbean, and we can also see the high-level cloud tops being pushed off towards the northeast by the upper-level wind shear. So we definitely have some amount of thunderstorm activity taking place across sections of South America, right there, section of Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. As usual, this is nothing new, they're used to it. We can also see some blow up of convection right there across portions of Central America, so sections of Mexico, Guatemala, sections of El Salvador getting in on the action, even sections of southern Honduras, Panama and Costa Rica as well. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Saturday, May 18. It was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall during the afternoon across sections of some western parishes in Jamaica. And just for your information, you know, western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney. And what ended up happening? The visible satellite images were posted during the late afternoon hours on our Twitter page at Weather Jamaica. Not only on our Twitter page, but on our Instagram page at weather.jamaica, on our TikTok page at Weather Jamaica, and on our Facebook page at Weather Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we saw that the visible satellite images were definitely posted, and we had somewhat of clouds building across sections of western Jamaica, so sections of Hanover, Westmoreland right there, and some of these clouds might have had in some amount of isolated shower, maybe a sprinkle here or there, definitely in those spots. Alright, so let us take a look at the temperatures right now. We can see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Sunday, temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18D on Sunday. When you calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Sunday, and we see Jamaica right here, embedded in some orange color still right here, like what we can see on the key on the right, that represent up to 1 to even 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And let me reiterate, the normal temperatures for the month of May across Jamaica are about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. When we take a look at the thermometer 89 degrees Fahrenheit is about the same as 31 degrees Celsius. So if we should be receiving up to 4 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for Jamaica's temperature on Sunday, we should be anywhere from 31 to 35 degrees Celsius. Taking a look at the Saharan dust map, well, not the Saharan dust map, well, the dry air map, it's actually a mixture of Saharan dust and dry air, but we're looking more so on the dry air factor. So we know the dry air is represented by the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we see Jamaica right here embedded in some amount of oranges. So we're still being plagued by a lot of dry air. That's not what we want to see. We want to see more blues that represent moist air. We want some rainfall, definitely. I'm sure the atmosphere is transitioning as we speak to respond to the way above normal temperatures right now across the Atlantic into the Caribbean in terms of the sea surface temperature. So it's only a matter of time before we start getting in on some amount of rainfall that we're begging to stop. So right now, yes, a lot of dry air, and it should be continuing into tomorrow. Now let's look at the actual Saharan dust forecast. This map is showing 2 p.m. on Sunday, and we do see the browns that represent the Saharan dust stretching all the way from Africa across the main development region into portions of the Caribbean. So Jamaica should be right here under the word port, stands for Port-au-Prince. So we're on the edge of the Saharan dust. Most of it is off towards the south of us. We do see the vigorous browns right here stretching into portions of the central and eastern Caribbean. So definitely the Leeward Islands, the Windward Islands, section of the ABC Islands getting in on that vigorous plume that represent, some amount of hazy, well, that can result in hazy skies, not to mention bringing some amount of respiratory illnesses in some people. And all of this is pushing westward, so it's definitely going to be affecting Jamaica eventually, maybe even by Monday. Alright, so let us take a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow. This map from the Euro and this map from GFS are in consensus that we're going to be receiving those lighter shades of blues on the north coast, those darker shades of blues on the south coast, that we can see by the key on the bottom that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height to at least 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because the winds, as usual, are going to be strongest on the south coast. The south coast seeing more so, and we have those brighter greens coming in from the east on both coasts. North coast getting in on those bluish kind of greens that we know represent anywhere from 5 to 10 knots, gusting up to even 20 knots, especially on the south coast. Alright, so if we even take a look at the wind shear map, the wind shear seems to be coming in from the northwest across the island for tomorrow. So if we're gonna be getting on some afternoon rainfall, more than likely all of the high cold cloud tops, if we get up to cumulonimbus clouds, thunder clouds, are going to be blown off towards the south. That didn't happen today. We'll see exactly what happens tomorrow. Alright, so let's get into the rainfall forecast now. So we can see that by even 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. at Jamaica time, we're seeing some blues that represent rainfall. So we did see something similar yesterday, and now we're seeing something just like what we saw. And the thing is, if you look back at the visible satellite images, that's not what actually came to fruition. We saw more of those clouds, yes, across sections of some western parishes, so sections of Hanover, Westmoreland. But the thing is, the air is so dry, so although the forecast maps are showing the blues that represent rainfall across especially the northwestern portion of the island, so section of Trelawney, St. James, section of Hanover and Westmoreland, the certainty isn't there at all, even although there is consensus on both maps. So we have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt, especially with how dry the air is these days. So yes, there's consensus for more rainfall across western Jamaica again, so that's gonna be the forecast. We'll see exactly what unfolds, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted. So western Jamaica, look out for that rainfall. And the accumulated precipitation forecast maps from both the Euro and the JFS models are in consensus with this for western Jamaica. The Euro showing more rainfall though, those yellows that represent up to at least 0.4 of an inch of rainfall. GFS showing the greens that represent at least up to 0.2 of an inch of rainfall. So we'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, Rainfall is in the forecast for western parishes. We're in the month of May. It's our secondary rainy season. We usually receive up to 213.05 millimeters of rainfall during this month. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put some kind of a dent in the drought that some areas are currently experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have a lot of activity still taking place across sections of the eastern half of the United States associated with the frontal system, some low-level clouds being pushed from east to west in that flow of easterly trade winds brought about by the ridge of high pressure. And we see that we have a lot of clouds bringing showers and thunderstorm activity across sections of the southern portion of the basin to northern South America, including section of Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, section of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, section of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, even sections of Central America getting in on the action as well, Mexico, Guatemala, section of southern Honduras, and El Salvador as well. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, so we do see some amount of specks of greens here and there that represent some amount of a rainfall across portions of the area. If we load these maps from earlier today, as usual, some amount of afternoon rainfall across sections of inland areas of central and western Puerto Rico right there. We even had some of this pushing northward into northern Puerto Rico, and even by the end of the images, we still have some hit or miss isolated showers represented by the greens, still affecting sections of the British Virgin Islands, even sections of Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia. And we can see all of that even better on the Barbados radar. Right here, the blues and the greens that represent light to moderate rainfall heading into section of Dominica, section of Martinique, definitely getting in on some rainfall as we speak. Not to mention section of St. Lucia and St. Vincent, especially the northern portion of St. Vincent right there getting nailed as we speak. If we skip southward, we do see some amount of rainfall right there affecting section of Trinidad. Not so much across Tobago right now, but there's a lot more rainfall to come across those areas. Taking a look at weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see that afternoon rainfall across eastern portions of Florida that they got in on today. You can also see that rainfall that we just mentioned on the satellite images for section of Mexico, section of Guatemala, and southern Honduras. And we can also see that rainfall even better for Trinidad, Colombia, section of Suriname, and French Guyana as well. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18Z on Sunday. When we calculate that, that's 1 p.m. on Sunday. We do see more so we have grays that represent normal temperatures or average temperatures for sections of northern South America, but anywhere from the eastern Caribbean to the Gulf of Mexico should still be receiving above normal temperatures as represented by the yellows, oranges as well, even those reds still affecting sections of Central America that represents way above normal temperatures, as we can see by the key on the right. All of this represents up to anywhere from maybe 4 to at least 7 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures across Central America right there. Taking a look at the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Sunday, we do see the browns represent the Saharan dust. Still, that's going to be plaguing sections of the eastern Caribbean, the Leeward Islands, the Windward Islands, section of the ABC Islands, Puerto Rico, and all of this pushing westward. So it's definitely going to be eventually affecting section of Jamaica, Cayman Islands, and even Central America areas that are not experiencing it right now, like Nicaragua and Honduras. As it relates to the wave forecast for tomorrow, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are in consensus that we're going to be receiving those lighter shades of blues to darker shades of blues across the Caribbean. That we can see by the key on the bottom right that represents anywhere from 0.5 for meter wave heights to at least 1.5 meter wave heights, maybe even up to 2 meter wave heights, where we see these purples to the far south of Jamaica. And that's because the winds, as we can see, are gonna be, a mixture as usual of the bluish greens, the greens, the brighter shades of greens, and the yellows that represent up to even 25 knots. And we can see the general direction coming in from the east for the most part across the Caribbean. But what about the rainfall forecast now? Let's get into the meat of the matter. This is the reason why we're here, to find out where it's going to be raining within the next 24 hours. So yes, we do see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus where the rainfall is expected. We see some rainfall right there across the northern Gulf, the section of Florida still to be getting some more rainfall. But what about here south of there now? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the rainfall consensus. So we do see that yes, there's somewhat of rainfall expected across section of southeastern Cuba, section of the Haiti, well, the Dominican Republic and Haiti, section of Puerto Rico, still to be getting some more afternoon rainfall, section of the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, section of Guadeloupe, Dominica. If they're already receiving that rainfall right now, it's definitely coming within the next 24 hours. Section of St. Lucia, Martinique, Barbados, St. Vincent, some rainfall for Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, section of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica as well, and even sections of western Honduras, southwestern Belize, section of Mexico, and section of Guatemala and El Salvador. And we know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances of actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.